On page 224, 225, we have our chart that displays graphics. This graphic tool would be in the body folder. I have it on the last page. And what I've done is I've taken both pages, I've mounted them on a large piece of construction paper. They can pull this out to decide what graphics they needed to put in their informative explanatory writing. After a writer has finished writing their text, they go back and decide if they need to use graphics. So they're going to ask two questions. Where in my writing is there information that is very difficult? In other words, my reader may have to read this 2 or 3 times to understand this information. Then the second thing I need to do is decide on the type of graphic my reader needs in order to understand that difficult text. So when you see graphics, graphics are there because the writer knows, this is kind of difficult. I need to give my reader a graphic so I can help aid them in comprehending what I'm trying to tell them about in this information. And that graphic is going to be a specific type of graphic depending on the information. So let's go to our chart to look at the type of graphic. I'm going to use a diagram as my graphic if my text is filled with content vocabulary. So if I know, I'm using a lot of vocabulary words here, head, thorax, abdomen, I should probably draw the picture of an insect and label it. So when my reader is reading, they're going to be able to understand those difficult words because when they're reading through the text and they come upon one of those words, they can quickly go to that diagram, see it in the diagram to understand what that word means, and then go back to continue reading. I choose a diagram when I know I have a lot of content vocabulary. When do I need a painting or a photo? If my text is filled with information where my readers need to visualize what I'm telling them about. So in my text, let's say I'm describing the layers of a leaf in a plant. It's probably a good idea to give them a drawing or a photo or some sort of a visual of that plant and its layers. What if I was telling about a certain setting where there was the Bunker Hill battle and you had to know that setting and what it looked like because it was important to understand the battle. So I can show a painting of or a drawing of that particular setting so my reader can visualize it to understand the information. A map is used when the text describes or tells about an area, such as, let's say it's physical features, resources, the climate in that area. And that map is a visual now of that area to help my reader understand how it affects the way people live, survive, travel, and communicate. When I'm telling information to my reader, and I'm giving them information about a large area, I may need to provide them with a map so they can see that large area and understand on that map, what are the landforms? Maybe I need to tell about the resources. Maybe I need to show on that map how people travel and live. So that map is going to give them that understanding of that entire area. A flow chart is when I'm writing and I have many steps in my writing. So I find that what I'm telling my reader requires many steps. There's so much in my sequence of steps and my information that if I gave a flow chart, it would be easier for my reader to read the steps and have a visual picture of each one of those steps so they can keep track of the order and understand the information easier. So a flow chart is used when you have many steps and you're helping your reader sequence and remember those steps. A timeline is used when the text has many events and tells the reasons why those events happened. So obviously, many times that's in history, where you're telling about many different events in history, so you give a timeline. And when you have any timeline, which designates a time period, that time period is signifying change. It's signifying some sort of an event that occurred and why or how that event occurred. So that timeline is all about change. So we're going from one change to the next change to the next change. A graphic organizer is used to show your reader how to organize a lot of information you're giving them so they can have a visual representation of that information that you are telling them about in the text. Graphs are used when you are giving numbers. You may want to also provide them with a graph to help your reader understand what the numbers mean. So you could have pie graphs to show how one thing is broken into parts. You could give a bar graph just to show items, amounts, or comparisons. Or you can have line graphs which show how two things affect each other. These are our graphics, and again, I want to emphasize, graphics are used when a writer knows they have a lot of difficult information in their text. So they insert graphics where that difficult text is, and they choose graphics that are going to represent what is in the text. This is the end of our informative explanatory writing tool section with all of my different charts, manipulatives, and tools that you can use to aid your students in writing their introductions, their bodies, and conclusions for all of their informative explanatory writing. I hope that you find these tools helpful and useful for you and your students.